Hello, my name is Joshua, and I'm a senior in high school, and college applications have started. And what I've realized is that I am a very disorganized individual, and that is something that I want to fix. I'm convinced that people who put milk in coffee don't like coffee, but they think it's cool and like hip, and so they like put milk in coffee and they're like, I like coffee, but it's like not coffee because it's just mostly milk. That's a joke. I'm just kidding. I hope I didn't offend any latte lovers. Anyways, I have zero organization and I only started using a calendar 3 months ago, I think. So before I go to college, I want to get my organization skills together and consolidate my knowledge. All that to say, a week ago, I was going through YouTube and I found a guy, Tiago Forte, and his system called building a second brain. Essentially what it is just writing everything down in a notes app, and I was intrigued by the idea and I wanted to start one because I thought that with college applications starting and me needing to write essays, it is currently September 1 and I have essays due on September 9, and instead of writing essays, I'm filming this video because I'm sick of essays. I have decided to build a second brain. But upon doing more research, I found out about a concept called personal knowledge management and conceptual note-taking. I read an article on The Atlantic about YouTube rabbit holes and how they don't exist, and I want to offer my rebuttal, and my rebuttal is me, because the only reason I found out about personal knowledge management is because of a YouTube rabbit hole. It uses an app called Obsidian, and I've got it set up a little bit. I was originally just using it for a second brain, but once I found out about conceptual note-taking and personal knowledge management, I've since transformed it into a kind of, I don't even know, it's like an amalgamation of just stuff. And so I am going to be taking you guys along a ride of me, an 18-year-old applying to colleges and still doing schoolwork and playing golf and all that, learning to organize my life and my thoughts and everything in a computer. Okay, I've reset the setup here to have the camera like kind of looking at me and then my laptop in front of me, and hopefully you can see the screen. It's kind of weird. I've never had a camera like you get to see this flattering angle of my face. This is Obsidian. It stores files locally on your computer, and you can basically do whatever you need to with them in terms of organization or editing. And the key feature of Obsidian is ability to link other notes within notes. So like if you look in here, this is linked to another note that I have, and then you can look at your backlinks, so where you came from to get there. What this means is that once you have a lot of notes, which I do not have right now, you can look at this like graph view and see how notes relate to each other. But what I've done is I've implemented Tiago Forte's second brain system into Obsidian. What the second brain system is, writing down everything that you intake and putting it into a slightly organized system on a computer or phone or anything, and doing that, things resurface occasionally, and when you need stuff, it's really easy to find it, so you don't have to remember anything. When you need like information for something, you have a database available on your computer instead of searching through your brain. Okay, so what is a personal knowledge management system? Is instead of taking notes linearly, like when you're at a lecture, and here, let me actually pull up my government notes. Each lecture, I just take notes straight down. As he says stuff, it's just kind of, in sequential order of what he says. What Atomic Notes are trying to do, get rid of that, make each individual topic within the lecture its own note. So like if I were to make notes again, which I will today, social contract would not be part of this bigger note, but it would be its own note called social contract with all the stuff that I know about social contract. And then I'd link the note social contract to another note about maybe natural rights or democracy, like a bigger note. So the beauty of that is that once you have them linked, you can see all the stuff that relates to the thing that you're looking at. And so studying becomes much easier because you're able to understand concepts better and stop going through stuff in the order that the professor says and start going through stuff in the order that you comprehend it. If you look for example here, this is one note. And so I have obviously notes about how to take notes and then stuff about what is a note. But if you look here, this is where Obsidian is really cool. So I talk about why it's important to take notes conceptually and not sequentially. And I linked another note I made about a different topic, which is first principles thinking. And so as I learn more about first principles thinking, I'll update this note. And as I update this note will get updated with it because it's linking to this one. And so what I plan to do today, instead of lecturing you, is to migrate all of my notes in AP Government so far, which isn't much because we've only had like 5 lectures, I think. I'm going to move it all into Obsidian, into my second brain / personal knowledge management system. And I'll make it a time lapse so you don't have to like watch all of it. But afterwards, I'll kind of walk you through the differences between both of the systems. And as I kind of go through school, I'll update you guys and show you if it's like working or not working, and if it's something that you should be doing yourselves. Honestly, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start migrating right now. Okay, it is currently the next day, and I'm not gonna lie, that was miserable. That little time lapse was probably 2 or 3 hours of work, but thankfully I don't ever need to do that again because I'm only migrating the notes, and from now on I'll be taking notes straight in here during lectures. But anyway, what you're seeing now is the notes that I took. On this left side are all the new notes that I created related to the notes from the lecture. But the idea of this is that there's no like main note, and it's a bunch of different ones that kind of all relate to each other. So if we look at the democracy one, we can see that the first thing in here is talking about how democracy is possible because of the social contract. And if you click on social contract, it's another thing. And then when you go in social contract, it references natural rights, which is another thing. A lot of these aren't linear. So that one was linear, like it went one to another, and then it ended. But if we look at federalism, this is another really big one. Then we can see that it relates to federalists, and then that relates to anti-federalists. If we go backward, then there's also types of powers, which goes to the necessary and proper clause. And you can see that the notes are not written in a way that's like, this is what the professor said, and then he said this, and then he said this, and then he said this. It's more conceptual. So it's like this idea relates to this other idea that the professor also said, but they're not necessarily in the order that the professor said. I don't know if you can hear the grass being cut outside. Hold on, I'm gonna close the window. Anyway, that is what this note-taking system is like. And so now I can take all of these notes that I took and put them into my school area folder. But what's great is that I don't need to organize it into a government folder. They just need to be free-floating in this folder. And so when in other subjects, if for some reason like democracy gets referenced, then I don't need to dig up my government folder to get my democracy note. I can just link the democracy note and then it goes straight to here. So in some ways this is a really disorganized and kind of chaotic mess, but in other ways it's a very pretty kind of organized chaos, as you can see from this graph. Okay, the more astute among you may have noticed that my hair is bedhead-y and that my shirt has changed a third time. That means that this small video has been recorded over the course of 3 days because I am a procrastinator. I do not claim to be an expert on the matters of second brains and personal knowledge management systems. This is just me kind of recording my progress and discoveries as I go through it, and hopefully that's helpful to you. So school starts after Labor Day on Tuesday, and I have government. So I will screen record the note-taking process, and if I can, capture audio as well. And I'll try to explain how I go from here in fleshing out the second brain and the management system. So if that's interesting to you, I mean, feel free to follow along. It's not like it doesn't cost you anything. And I'll upload as frequently as I can, but it'll be on brand if I don't post for like another month. So I'll see you when I see you. Bye.